Here once again is our stick. We have the tape on what I'm calling the top end of the stick. We're going to start off with our familiar 1/3, 2/3 grab, where we have our right hand face down, 2/3 of the stick up top towards the tape, 1/3 down below into what we can call the handle. We're now going to be going behind our back. So we're going to use a combination of some of the things that we've seen in prior presentations, which we'll give a quick recap of here. One of them is rotating the stick around our thumb and then going from side to side, but instead of in front of our body, going behind our body. And then we'll take a look at rotating the stick over the back of our hand. And once again, instead of going in front of our body from side to side with that motion, we will now be going behind our body. So let's first just do a quick recap. This is that thumb motion where we're just pinching the stick with our thumb. So we have a nice loose grip and we can flip it around in this format. We can do that, of course, on the other hand with the left hand as well. And if we can't do that, we can practice with both hands until we can, because we're going to go side to side and we'll need to do that on both hands. So there we have that flip. Now we're going to go under here. So notice I've tucked it under. This looks just like we've done before in a side to side type motion, where before we grabbed it right here and then pulled it down with the left hand and then repeated the process on the other side with a side to side motion. But this time we're just going to tuck this behind our back. So it's going to instead look like this. So now we've tucked it behind our back and we're reaching back behind our back, which we'll see that view later. But of course we're grabbing it once again behind our back with a 1/3 2/3 grip, basically trying to get our hand right over the top of where our other hand is, so that we can then pull it down on this side instead of in front of our body, getting us to the same position we would have if we did that same motion in front of our body, so that we can then do the same process that we did when we did the side to side in front of our body, putting it now on our shoulder, making sure that we tuck into the meat of the shoulder there, and then we can rotate it around our thumb as many times as we want. Here's 2 times, and then tuck it right back under here again, noticing that I'm exaggerating this motion of tucking it in, because normally I would just flow right behind the back, which we'll do more later. But just to show that we would grab it this way if I was going in front of my body and then pull it down with the right side. But now I'm just going to have the same motion, tucking it behind my back and pulling it down, and now we're in the same position we would have been if I pulled it down from in front of me, and then we can put it back on the shoulder, same position as we did before in front of our body. We can do a thumb roll on it, tuck it back in again. Now I'm just going to go right behind our back, pull it down, back to the shoulder, and then we can do a thumb roll and then tuck it under, back behind the back. And then we could do that once I'm trying to make an over-exaggeration of each of those steps, which kind of throws off your rhythm a little bit. And then, of course, you can cut out some of those steps by just kind of flowing back behind your back without basically overemphasizing the tuck behind the arm. And then as you get good at that, then you can vary how far you're going to be extending from one side to the other side, how many times we want to flip it on our wrist. Now I'm just going to do the side view so we can emphasize basically the left arm, possibly see it behind the back a little bit more. So here's the grab. Notice it's a 1/3, 2/3 grab. It's a little bit difficult to do the grab because I got to kind of let go here so I can grab it around the same position, so I have it still in that 1/3, 2/3 grip. So that takes a little getting used to, and now it's back to our normal position here, putting it back on the shoulder, and then rotating and then tucking it under. I'm overemphasizing again, and then this bit I'm going to tuck behind my back instead of in front, and then we'll pull it down and then back to the shoulder, and so on. So there's that view of it. And then we'll go to the back so that we can hopefully see the hand switch. So now we're on the right hand this way, just rotating on the thumb, tucking it under. So we're tucking it under here, and instead of passing it over in front of the body, we pass it behind the body. And then once again, we have the grab there that's going to be a little bit difficult because we want to get the grab hand that's grabbing, in this case, what is that, the left hand, right over the top. So I'm grabbing it in basically the same spot because that's the best spot for orientation. Now I have my position down to where it normally would if I was to do it in front of my body, back on the shoulder here, and then we could flip it on the thumb, put it back under. So now it's under here again. Instead of taking this hand in front of my body, we're going to put it behind the body and reach around with this hand, boom, and so on. So that's going to be the process. So I'm kind of overemphasizing it. Then you can basically get to a more, flowing process going back and forth from side to side. Later on, we will of course do this with the over the wrist. So here's just the same thing. Now emphasizing the right side, just so we can see it on this side. I'm kind of overemphasizing the process. Again, I won't stop it because we've seen it a few times at this point, but here it is on the right hand, back to the front view. So then, of course, once we get that, we can kind of just get the rhythm. So I'm just trying to do different rhythms. Notice you can pick your foot up. You can orientate your body more to the left, to the right. You can vary how many times you're going to flip it in your thumb. So that just like we talked about with the drum beat, if you're just doing this, you're just like improvising it, you could do a lot of different combinations just with that. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go over the wrist. So we're just showing what we've seen in a prior presentation to now flip it over my wrist instead of having the thumb roll, which is usually my default kind of thing to do when I'm just kind of messing around. So it goes over the wrist one way and then the other way. Here it is on the side. We're going to need to do it on the side here because that's going to lead to the behind the back motion. And here it is wrapping it all the way up to the shoulder, just extending it a little bit further than we were before, which is just another variant, another kind of beat, another kind of rhythm that we can throw into the mix, which is basically the same thing. Same thing with the left hand. You've seen this before, just flipping it over the back of the hand. Here it is on the side. And then we're going to roll it all the way up to the shoulder just to give it a little bit more of an extension. Once we have that, we can do the same motion. So now we're going to flip it. And so now instead of doing the thumb roll, I'm flipping it over the back of my hand and catching it in essence right here. So I'm going to catch it right here. We could let it flip over the shoulder, which I will show later, but we can catch it right there and then flip it back. And now that I'm here, I'm in the same position I would be with the thumb roll. And I can do the same thing as we do with the thumb roll, putting it under our arm here. And instead of grabbing this way, as we did in a prior presentation, we can just push it behind our back and do that same grab behind our back, which is the same thing we did before with the thumb roll activity. So the only change here being we're doing the over the wrist. So now we're in the same position over the wrist. We catch it right here, put it back over the wrist, over the back of the hand, and now we're in the same position as we would be with the thumb roll. We can tuck it under the arm, and then instead of catching it in front of our body like that, which we did in a prior presentation, we're going to just tuck this behind our back and bring it down that way. Now we're down to the same position we would have been if we brought it down from in front of our body, and then we'll bring it back in, roll it up, push it back down under the arm, behind the back. And that's going to be the general idea, the general process with that one. So I'm trying to overemphasize it here. I'm getting a little bit out of whack, out of rhythm as I try to put in the extra emphasized step of doing that. So then you can kind of flow with it a little bit more once you get the handoff, which I was going to edit this out, but I just thought might as well not edit it out since, yeah, you're going to drop the stick from time to time. That's fine. So now we could just kind of get in more of a, just like a flow instead of stopping on each point. So here's just the side view. So here's the flip on this side, and then there's the catch, and then we bring it back down, and then we can put it under the arm, and then we'll tuck it behind the back. There's the grab, and then the other side, boom, boom, and then we'll bring it behind. There's the grab, pulling it back down with this hand. Boom, there's the flip, tucking it under the arm, and then the grab. So that's going to be the process. And then same thing, so now we'll just do it this way. So now we have the flip over the wrist, catching it. Now we have the grab, tucking it under the arm and then behind the back. There's the grab behind the back, and now we'll flip it over the wrist back, and then there's tuck, and then behind the back, and so on. So that's going to be the general process. Same basic movement, same basic flow. And again, I was going to cut that out, but I'm just too lazy to cut it out, actually. It's a learning experience or whatever. So now we could just kind of get on the rhythm, and now we'll go back. And now I'll just possibly go all the way up. So this is the same thing, but now instead of catching it right here, we're going all the way up, which is just another beat, just another extension of the rhythm as we bring it all the way up over our shoulders. So here's the roll over the wrist all the way up and then back down, and then behind the back, same process. I messed up. All the way up, back down, and then all the way up and back down. So it's the same process. We're just doing one more extension to go all the way up instead of stopping it like right there. So that's the general idea. Just one more variant on the process. So now I'm just basically trying to put some stuff together that we did before in front of our body and then behind the body, just to show that you can kind of do some combos with this stuff. And it's just basically, I'm just trying to put together, I'm trying to think of things that we've already done and not things that we haven't done, and just put them together in somewhat of a random combo here, just to note that we can kind of flow between these different things that we've been looking at in the last few presentations. So that's just the general idea here. I'm just going on forever. I don't know. I should stop it here. I think I'm going to stop pretty soon. Aren't you getting tired yet, man? For crying out loud. So you get a little bit of a different rhythm. Then there's over the back of the hand, and then so that's it. That's the general idea.